Would you pay $50,000 to a stranger to name your baby? Apparently, there's plenty of people who do. Taylor Humphrey from San Francisco charges between $345,000 to $52,000 for her baby in a naming service, and so far she's helped name 500 newborns. Taylor's with me now. Hey, Taylor.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It sounds a lot worse in New Zealand dollars than it does in USD.
I think it sounds bad everywhere, Taylor. Hey, who named you, and do you like your name?
That's a great question. My parents chose Taylor in the 80s. They chose it when it was still largely a masculine name, and my grandparents all unanimously hated it and said, "What are you going to call her? That's too masculine for a little girl." But they ultimately chose it. I love it, and I wish that more people just loved their names.
Taylor, we keep quoting this up to $52,000. What was that most expensive baby you named? What was the name, and what justified the price?
So unfortunately, I can't share details. NDAs can be very tough, but I will say that my high-end VIP packages start around 10,000. The majority of my clientele come in at a lower price point. I have packages starting at $200 USD. So there's quite a range there. But parents come to me for a number of different reasons. The most common of which, it's just really hard to name a baby.
How do you decide? Do you do lots of research about family history and go that way, or are you more of a zucchini, apple, table type person?
So I love a good zucchini, apple, table kind of name. I think the more creative, the better. But I always defer to the parents, and honestly, I really let the parents lead. I'm just there to kind of help guide the process. I am certainly not there to choose the ultimate name. I really believe that is like a sacred job of a parent. And I'm just there to kind of like offer feedback and insight and guidance.
Have you ever stopped a name if they've suggested one and you said do not?
I will say I have heard some parents have some pretty wacky ideas. I would say the majority of the parents I work with really want to choose a name that's going to serve their child well throughout their life. But every once in a while, you do get a very uniquely spelled name. And I always kind of caution them to just think about, like, is this going to be difficult for the barista at Starbucks to spell on their coffee cup every morning?
It's a very good point. What's the worst name you've heard?
Ooh, I try really hard to avoid saying this because you just never know who's listening if they have just named a child this name. I will say I'm not a fan of really controversial names.
Like what, Adolf or something? I mean, what?
Yeah, that would be a top one. I think that's a tough one because it can be a family name that gets passed down. I think it's a tough one. It doesn't feel quite right to reclaim that name just yet. So
No,
I do caution parents around those more
doesn't
controversial
roll
names.
off the tongue. We're a long way.
Doesn't roll off the tongue. Yeah.
Taylor, what about the names that we're seeing, celebrities? I think we mentioned Apple was one of them. Is it okay to just be walking down the street, see a leaf or, I don't know, what else? A lollipop and that's it?
Well, I do think that names reflect our deeper core values. So maybe for someone choosing the name Apple, that does have biblical significance. It's very unique, but it is something that everyone on earth can relate to in some way. I think most people have, know what it's like to like the sensation of biting into an apple. So there is something kind of unifying about some of these more unique, outrageous celebrity or influencer baby names.
Do you ever consider to advise, make sure you sound it out? Like, what does it sound like in a sentence? What does it sound like if you're telling them off, for example?
Yes, I think that there are a lot of things. telling them off, you're probably going to use that first and middle name. So we want to make sure that the flow, there's some power there. But it's also like, think about what it's like if you hear your kid's coach calling them out on the soccer field, or what it's going to sound like when they're walking across the stage at graduation. Your full name is used not very often in your life, but in some critical moments. And so we really want to make sure that in those big moments, you're choosing a name that does honor the child that you're naming.
Hey, great to have you on the show, Taylor. Best of luck with the business. Taylor Humphrey, who is a baby naming consultant, named 500 babies. There you go.